Continuing now on the home front, immigration is a hot topic issue, and even more so since President Trump said the Daca program initiated by President Obama will end within 6 months unless Congress acts. Daca is a deferred action for childhood arrivals program. Migrants who entered the country illegally with their parents, lived in the U.S. continually since June 15, 2007, and came here before they were 16 years old won't be deported. They're given work permits, and at least 800,000 people, now mostly young adults, are part of Daca. Now, President Trump's final extension forces the hand of Congress. They must act and write new immigration law, or the dreamers will be sent packing. And joining us now is author Tom Gjelten. He's written the book, A Nation of Nations. Mr. Gjelten, this seems like deja vu again. Since Ronald Reagan, haven't other presidents tried to force the hand of Congress to rewrite immigration laws and failed?
Boy, this has been going on, Gary, for decades. There's always been concern about the number of people who are coming into the country illegally, and concern about how to keep control or get control of our borders. But once those people are here, there's also concern about treating them fairly and respectfully, and trying to balance these two needs of, on the one hand, controlling our borders, on the other hand, taking care of the people who are already here. That's been a real difficult problem to solve.
Well, what is the meaning of your book title? You say A Nation of Many Nations?
Well, that actually comes, Gary, from a poem by Walt Whitman. It was an essay, a preface to Leaves of Grass, where he wrote that the United States is, in a sense, the greatest poem. He said, here is not merely a nation, but a teeming nation of nations. He was referring to the great variety of human origins.
What's the difference between immigration, let's say, during the massive waves that we saw just before and after the turn of the 20th century, and the one we're seeing now?
Well, the big difference, Gary, is that up until 1965, the U.S. government tried to control immigration by really favoring certain nationalities over others. There were national origin quotas. So people from Northern and Western Europe, Germany, for example, the Scandinavian countries where my family came from, or Great Britain, they were heavily favored in the allocation of immigrant visas. So the flow of immigration into the United States was very much white and European up until 1965. What happened in that year was Congress passed a new immigration law that did away with those national origin quotas and basically put all countries on more or less equal footing.
How should people of faith address this difficult issue?
Well, Jesus was pretty clear, and not only Jesus, in the Old Testament, the prophet said to the people of Israel that you were once strangers in your land, and you need to accommodate the strangers when you encounter them in your own land. And of course, Jesus said, welcome the stranger. I mean, the references to how to treat migrants are there throughout the Old Testament and the New Testament. So this is one area I have found where people of faith, leaders of faith communities, are actually fairly united, that it is important to treat migrants with respect and to be open to them, to be welcoming to them. There are a lot of issues right now, Gary, in which people of faith differ in terms of the values that they stand for. But I have found that when it comes to immigration and how to treat the migrants and the refugees, there's a lot more unanimity than there is around some of these other really troublesome issues.
Well, you had mentioned that the immigrants that we're actually allowing in has changed over the years. So how will this change our nation? It doesn't seem likely that we'll remain a nation with a Christian majority.
Well, one thing we can say for sure is that we're not going to remain a nation with a white majority. I mean, I think the latest figures from the Census Bureau suggest that in 25 years, 2042, whites in America will be in the minority, that people of color will be in the majority. Now, I think that Christians will continue to dominate the U.S. population. I mean, if you look right now at immigrants who are coming from African countries and from Asian countries, many of them are Christians. And in fact, it is in what we used to call the third world. It is in places like Africa and South Asia where Christianity is really growing. The sad truth is that in the United States, the number of people who attend church regularly, the number of people who describe themselves as religious is declining. But on the other hand, Christianity is growing in many parts of the world. And so to the extent that we open our doors to these other countries, there is no reason to think that this will necessarily weaken Christianity in this country.
Okay, Tom Gjelten, author of the book, A Nation of Nations, and we appreciate you. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure, Gary.